What's up, everyone? This is your host, Jose Marquez, and I want to welcome you to the Sunday BYOB podcast on YouTube. BYOB means bring your own Bible, and our goal is to make it come alive for you. We invite a wide range of guests to share their stories of triumph, joy, victory, and sorrow, and each episode is designed to talk about real issues with real people about a real God. We hope that you are curious, because if you are, you have tuned into the right place. Let's go. What's up, Sunday BYOB? We miss you guys. We're excited to be recording once again. It's been a while. There's been a whole lot of stuff going on, and some of that stuff we're going to be sharing. But before I get into some of those heavy things, our guest hosts, our peoples, our founder, Mr. Chico, how you been, bro?
What's going on?
What are some of the things going on in your life?
Where do we begin? I'm engaged
Woo!
to my girl, Nicole, 4 years in.
We just lost some of our audience right now.
Oh, he's married now. Chill. He's going to get married, pregnant, going to be parents very, very soon.
That's
to a baby
awesome,
boy.
man.
And a lot of things. We moved out, have our own place.
Wow.
All that all happened in a matter of weeks.
That's so cool. That's so cool. And I heard you're taking on our last name, so you're going to be a Marquez?
No. The baby's going to have the Mora last name.
At least it's M. Right? It stays M.
And the middle name is going to be associated with the Marquezes. So
wow.
The baby's blessed, man.
That's going to be so
She's
cool.
about to be 6 months. We're feeling the baby move. Like, there's actually a little human in there.
It's wild.
It's the wildest thing. When people talk about it, you know it's wild. But when you're in that position where you're seeing it grow day by day, you're like, oh my God, this is real.
It's so cool. It's so cool. Like I remember when my kids were growing, and it was weird because I was so young that I feel like I didn't appreciate all those little changes, all those subtle movements and stuff like that. So
and depends on
it's weird. It's different.
In life where you're at when those things happen, you can see where you might get lost in the day-to-day things. Trying to figure things out. If you're not in a place where you were figuring your things out, you kind of like on a rush. I gotta get this. I gotta get that. I gotta do this. And I can see where there's people that miss out on those moments and don't really, like you said, acknowledge them as much. But it's been a blessing.
It's so good. And God is good, man. And, for our audience, they might not know that we haven't recorded for how long has it been? That we've made like a brand new video? It's been at least 2 months.
Yeah. At least 2 months.
And that's,
it might be more than that, to be honest with you.
And that's a long time for us. Thankfully, we had some episodes, in our back pocket that we was able to give to you guys. But the reason that we hadn't been able to record for at least 2 months or so is a lot of tragedy, man. A lot of tragedy came our way, my family's way. And this is almost like a video kind of honoring their memory, helping I feel like the Christian community doesn't know how to grieve, and I think it's important to talk about things like this.
Grieve.
Because whereas I think what a lot of Christians do is avoidance. I call it Christian avoidance, and they call it faith. Where they don't really deal with the emotions that they're feeling. And in the Christian world, emotions a lot of times are bad, but emotions are just that, emotions. And especially when it comes to losing a loved one, we need to know how to process this stuff. And I'm not an expert by any, in any way, shape, or form, but I am an expert in the sense of loss. I've lost my grandma. I've lost my 17-year-old cousin to a car accident. I lost my grandfather a few months ago. And 1 month after losing my grandfather, I lost my cousin, who basically growing up was my brother. The hat that I got on right now was given to me by his mom, and it was his. And I just thought it appropriate to wear it tonight in this recording to kind of honor his memory. Um, and it's tough, man. Like there's a verse that I want to start off in the scriptures in the Bible, that it was written by King Solomon, and this ancient king of Israel. He said, "There's a time," and it's super basic. There's a time for everything, and every matter under heaven. And then he says, "There's a time to be born, and there's a time to die."
And that is one of the most realist things you can realize in life.
Yes,
That no
yes.
matter what happens in the middle, there's a beginning and there's an end.
And
It's
you
scary
know,
too, to be
it's
honest with you.
crazy. It's weird because, you know, I don't know about you,
Mhm.
but I don't like thinking about death. I don't like thinking about my death. I don't like thinking about others' death. As prepared as I sometimes convince myself that I
Yeah.
am, I'm never prepared for it.
You mean you don't like thinking about it in a sense like like thinking into reality or in that sense,
I
or it's just the
just
thought of
death in general.
general.
Death in general makes me very, very uncomfortable. And I think, you know, in learning about even the Enneagram, which if you haven't checked it out, we got a whole lot of
Definitely,
videos on it.
definitely go check that out.
But you know, I'm an Enneagram 7, and for an Enneagram 7, we try to avoid pain at all costs. So we reframe, we gaslight, we do anything possible to not deal with the underlying pain of something. So when it comes to death, imagínate, like
That
that's
is one of
even
the biggest,
heavier.
yeah, that's one of the biggest things you can go through. One of
It's
them.
it's tough. Have you ever lost someone close?
My grandmother, man, that hit me hard. I
How
lost
old
one
were
of my
you?
friends. That was recently. That was if I'm not mistaken, almost 2 years now.
So
My
tough.
aunt passed away to COVID. You know, she had underlining health conditions, and COVID basically just took that to the next level. And that was not even maybe a year ago now. You know, like my cousin, which you know, she was like one of my closest cousins. Um, from my dad's side of the family, she ended up, you know, dying to complications with a pregnancy,
Wow.
and that was the first death. Then it was my grandmother, and then it was my aunt. So all those were heavy, but in a sense of, I remember growing up and seeing them, and you know, being around them, having a close connection with my grandmother. Do you hear like a noise or something?
Yeah, you hear it.
I think
Watch.
that is
I think it's the fan hitting the
hitting
mic.
the microphone. You want me to move that one
Like, no, just put it
to spin?
then we won't hear it like the consistent thing.
Yeah.
I was like, let me stop before.
How about now?
You can hear it in passing, but we won't hear it consistently. So
Want me
that's
to put them
perfect.
back?
No, that's cool.
Might have to put them back. At least this one. That's the one that's probably hitting you.
Yeah, you can still hear it.
Yeah.
Watch. It's not as heavy though. You can hear it, but it's super light. Are we gonna start all over or record?
Start all over, then it would have to be from the beginning.
But are you able to start from there?
No, not from what.
Oh, you'll just
I'll
cut
just
all
cut it
this.
off now.
All right.
I'll just
So,
cut
what was the last thing we said?
I said losing. Well, losing.
Okay.
Losing. I'll follow
From
it
your
up with
grandma.
losing, and then
Mm-hmm.
let me see. Yeah, it's a little less.
Yeah.
You know, so losing all three was heavy for not just me, but seeing my
The
father
family.
grieve,
Ah.
seeing the family deal with that, and we're still during, you know, in a pandemic, so you are also limited to some, you know, visitations, like the hospital visitation is going to be possible for my aunt.
That's tough.
Like all those things happen, and you're learning to how am I going to handle this? How do I, you know, help this person grieve? Because like heavy on my father, heavy on my father's niece that lost her mother. Like those things, I saw them, how it affected them, and it made me think about death and looking at my father and looking at my mother. It's just that you start realizing, hey,
Things get different.
life has an expiration date, and it's
Yes.
not just for those people, and that's even heavier.
And like fortunately for both my grandfather and my cousin, like I was able to be there. I know there's a lot of people in our audience that unfortunately they weren't able to be there in the last moments of their their loved ones' lives because of the COVID restrictions, because of the processes that were put in place to
The
protect
fear,
people,
and then the fear as
and then
well.
the fear
you
of
don't know
others.
if you're harming somebody or not if you go, and then you're fearful of, you know, that their health is declining, but you want to avoid being a person that adds on to that, and you don't know how to manage this thing right now.
And it's tough, man. It's tough. Like I said, a lot of the processes that I've been able to go through in learning about emotional health and learning about myself and learning about what makes me tick, what makes me healthy, what makes me unhealthy, and learning about my essence and how I've had the tendency to try to avoid pain. You know, and an example, when my grandma passed away, I didn't grieve correctly. I grieved, but I didn't grieve correctly. And in hindsight, right? Hindsight is 2020, like they say. And in hindsight, when I think about my grandma's passing, I was involved in everything. I was involved in the planning. I was involved in the speaking. I was involved in the praying for people. I was involved in telling people. I was involved in going to jails to tell my uncle. I was involved in going to a youth house to tell my cousin. I was involved in every single aspect. But it wasn't because I was trying to be helpful. It was because I was trying to avoid. And you know, in hindsight, when I think about it now, I remember when I finally crashed, I ended up pushing people away. You know, and that's something that I want our audience to understand, that, and it's something that I got a quote. Yeah, I got a quote from Devin Franklin in The Truth About Men. He says, anything that we suppress eventually gets expressed in unhealthy ways. Anything that we suppress eventually gets expressed in unhealthy ways. And for me, with my grandmother, when my grandmother passed, what I didn't realize then that I understand now is that I lost the one person that I felt loved me unconditionally.
Like that one person that they just loved you.
Period.
You could
No
hear whatever
questions
about that
asked.
person.
Yes.
That was my grandmother,
Yeah.
man. My grandmother would just, you can see the love just oozing out of her when she would see me. And I felt that. And it was like, I can be just chilling with her. And she'll ask me about what's going on in my life and hug me, kiss me, and just be there, be present with me. And that felt good.
And there's
good.
nothing like it, right? So what happened with me when I lost that unconditional love, in not grieving it and not dealing with it, what I ended up doing was unharshly, I ended up doing was harshly judging everyone else's love according to that love that I had lost, and not grieved and not dealt with, right? Because what ended up happening is, in not grieving it and not releasing it, I ended up almost hoarding it. And what happens when a hoarder hoards things, he doesn't leave enough space for other stuff. And what ended up happening with me in not correctly grieving my grandmother, I ended up hoarding her unconditional love and making it impossible for anyone, including my wife at the time, to love me in a way that I was able to receive. And you know, then my cousin died a year later. And I still didn't know how to grieve. You know, I was still trying to be the pastor. I was still trying to be the super holy person that everyone needed,
Yeah.
and not understanding that I needed to grieve too. You know, that there's some pastors out there, there's some Christians out there that in trying to be everything for everyone, you're not being there for you.
Absolutely.
You're not being there for yourself. And again, we put this burden, we end up putting it on others. And it's unfair. It's unfair because, even Jesus, there's a verse where Jesus says, we're only able to love others at times the way we love ourselves. We're only able to love others the way we love ourselves. So if we're not loving ourselves and we're expecting someone else to love us, what we end up doing is not allowing them to love us correctly or in a healthy way, because we don't even know what that love should feel like, because we haven't experienced it with ourselves. So then my grandfather passed away. It's so unfortunate. We was getting ready for a joyous day. My little sister was getting married that day.
Wow.
The only reason we was able to discover my grandfather dead in his apartment was because she went to pick him up for her wedding.
So that happened the day of.
The day of the wedding. They're calling him. He's not picking up. That's weird. They go to his apartment. They're calling him. They hear the phone ringing while they're outside the door. That's weird. They finally get the fire department to open the door, and when we open the door, we see him. He was gone already. Devastating, devastating. What was different for me with my granddad was that he was older. He had already had a heart thing put in. He was already on his third one. But he needed help kind of existing. And he had already shared with my mom that he was tired. So we kind of knew that his days were numbered. We were kind of prepared, but it still hurt.
Absolutely.
It's your granddad. And what I've come to discover, Chico, I don't know if this happened with you, is part of what hurts so much is the fact that when this person passes, sometimes we make ourselves to believe that the memories passed with them. All these moments, all these experiences,
Absolutely.
all these joyous occasions. Now this person that I shared them with is no longer here, so then the memory's no longer here. But that's not true. And that's what happened with me.
Do you think that we suppress those memories as well because we don't know how to handle them, and they still bring pain instead of joy?
That's so good.
Because
and maybe we don't want them to bring. That's so good.
Because
That's a perspective,
right? I know there's people that avoid music, avoid anything that can lift your spirit up because they find it to be disrespectful, to the person that just passed. So they'll mourn in a certain way, and to express that, right? And I feel like when you laugh at certain things, and even if it's a memory of them, you might feel like that's not funny no more. They're not here no more.
Yes.
And that's a part of pain, attached to that. So
that's so good, man. And see, what you're explaining there in the Christian world, and I'm talking to those that are in the church world right now. What we end up doing is we put in a verse. And to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord, and in the blinking of an eye, those that are dead in Christ shall arise, and we shall arise with them. And we have all of these verses that are meant to bring comfort, but what I've found is that they're meant to bring comfort in the midst of grieving. They're meant to bring comfort in the place of grieving, and that's two completely different perspectives.
Yeah.
And when my cousin passed, I wasn't ready at all. I thought grandma passed. That was my world. My cousin, my little cousin passed. That was a tragedy. 17 years old. My grandpa just passed. So like I know what this feels like. I'm ready. Chico, I was not ready. When you talk about being broken, there were moments where I curled like a little baby, and I felt myself curling like a little baby on Anna's lap, and I'm just bawling and bawling and bawling, and I couldn't make it stop. And in the midst of all that, I'm like, Lord, like what's going on? What's going on? I'm what is it that I'm feeling? And I truly felt God share with me that I was allowing myself to grieve. And although it was hurtful and it was hurting, it was the healthiest thing I could do at the moment. My aunt gives me a call. I don't know the order that she called me, to let me know what was going on. But me and my cousin grew up together from birth. Like it wasn't like from birth we were tied at the hip. Um, when my mom moved somewhere, my aunt moved there with my cousin. There was a moment when my aunt and my cousin went to Puerto Rico. She had to come back because I stopped eating. Like that's how
Yeah,
close we were. And at the when I started when Jesus changed my life, and he changed my priorities, and he changed my purpose, and my intentions and things like that. you know he went one way, and I ended up drifting another way. We were living different lives. When we saw each other, which was just still the weirdest thing, like I got a lot of cousins, and I know my cousins love me, but no one literally gave me a kiss on the cheek every time he saw me, except my cousin. No one kind of brought out that kid in me, that little kid, except my cousin. Um, so many memories. There was one time we we played hooky, the way they call it, or we cut,
yeah.
and we cut right in the basement of my where my parents lived. Like there was a little
What?
room. We were there with like a little quarter bag of potato chips, the little juices that you used to be able to buy for a quarter,
25 cents, man.
and one of those Suzy Q's cakes. And we were like, we were being bad, and we were hiding out. In my cousin's traumatic childhood, because he had a very traumatic childhood. I experienced that trauma with him. In my traumatic childhood, me and my little brother had a traumatic childhood. He experienced that trauma
With
with
you.
us. So when I'm in the room, me and Anna go in the room, to give my aunt a little break, and everything turned red. The nurse comes in, she runs in, and she's like, he's leaving.
Oh,
When you want to talk about devastated, Anna, I mean, I thank God for my wife, and how clutch she was during everything that went down. She runs out of the room, she gets my aunt, and I'm just on the floor just bawling. And it was tough, man. It was tough. The grieving began right then and there. I mean, I punched walls. I cursed. I screamed. I was angry at people. I was sad. I bargained. I tried to bargain with God. I was like, God, please just let this be the miracle. Let this be the miracle that happens for our family. I did everything. I went through the 5 stages of grief. Like I saw it though, like almost in slow motion. I saw myself grieving, and it took a lot out of me. And it was the weirdest thing, man, because again, we weren't as close as me and my grandma. My grandma was my world, or I convinced myself we weren't as close. But when Junior passed, and his name is Junior, and his name was Junior, and oh man, it was the toughest thing. And so many things I learned about myself, so many things I learned about my family in the midst of, so many things I learned about God. The day of his wake, when the whole process started, my aunt lets me know on a Monday. He passed away on a Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken. And there's this one song that kept playing on the radio when I put my Spotify on. It was the first song on Spotify, and it was the only song that was bringing me comfort. And this song is called, I will wait on you. I will wait on the Lord. I will wait on the Lord. And it talks about his comfort. It talks about his peace in the midst of. And wild, bro, wild. The day of the wait comes. I invited my boy Ant, who's been in past episodes, the one with Nicole on
absolutely. Yeah,
fitness
yeah.
and health. And Ant comes in, and he's a worship lead. He's one of the worship leaders of our church, and he gets on his keyboard, and he touches a few keys, and immediately I break, because I didn't tell him what songs to sing.
It was that
He
song.
starts singing "I Will Wait on You." I turn around, and I'm just crying and crying and crying and crying, And I'm sure my family thought like he's crying because it's Junior. That's it. That was his close cousin and stuff like that. But I was crying because I felt God's presence at that moment. I felt God telling me I was with you on Monday. I was with you on Tuesday. I was with you on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and I'm with you today. And that's one of the things that I want our audience to know, that the presence of pain doesn't always mean the absence of God. The presence of pain does not mean the absence of God.
That's powerful.
And we need to embrace that, understand that, and walk that, because so many people leave God because of that. Others don't allow themselves to feel the pain that brings healing because they feel, if I embrace pain, I neglect God. And that's not so. The Bible shows us Mary was a wreck when Jesus was on the cross. The Bible says in John chapter 12, when Jesus' friend Lazarus dies and he's in a tomb for 4 days, he begins to weep as everyone else was weeping because he felt their pain. Jesus ultimately knows he was about to resurrect this man because he has that kind of power. But before he resurrects him and he does this miraculous thing that we haven't seen with our eyes, I haven't anyway, before he does that, he grieves with them. He grieves with the people. So there's moments that we see in the Gospels, the very Bible that all of us read, that show that grieving is a part of the human experience. And again, for me, having my family there, a few days later, one of my cousins calls me and he's still crying. And he said, his daughter looked at him and he said, "Daddy, are you okay?" And he said, "I was about to tell her yes, but I said, no, baby, I'm not okay." And he says that the moment that he said, "I'm not okay," the wells just opened up. And he starts crying and crying and crying and crying. Why? Because he allowed himself to not be okay.
If you say you're okay, you're gonna stop crying. You're gonna prove to them that you're you know what I mean, like that's wow.
It's wild. And again, if we don't give ourselves that moment where we say, "I'm not okay. I'm not okay." Today, 2 months after my cousin passed away, I'm not okay. No, 1 month, I'm not okay. When I put this hat on, knowing that he wore it, I'm not okay. Like I'm trying to live, but something happened. I lost someone that was important to me. I lost these years. We lived them, but I lived them with him, and he's no longer here. And again, all these memories. My grandfather's wake, he was there a month before.
All the losses before that.
He was there when my grandma passed away in the hospital. He was there when my little cousin passed. He was there when my grandfather passed away. He was there, and he looked at me. He was like, "Cuz, I need to talk to you. Call me." So my mind is, it's June. He's 42. We good. We got time. And I didn't call him.
And life is going, like you said, that
keeps
direction.
Going, and
you got things that are happening in this side.
Yes.
That this person is in the back of your mind, but not as present because of your day to day.
Yes.
Your day to day doesn't consist of constantly seeing that person. So
yes.
it's harder.
It's hard.
Pick up the phone and call them.
And that still bugs me. It still bugs me because all he wanted was a call. How many people we have around us right now, and because we haven't grieved correctly, we're not able to correctly appreciate what we have left because we haven't grieved what left. We don't know how to process our emotions, so our emotions are in a state of flux, and we're exploding at people and don't even know why. Could it be it's because you haven't properly grieved someone?
There's when you said that there's some people that walked parted ways with God, I feel like that when that happens, some people look at it like he allowed it. God allowed this to happen, and
Yes.
he let this pain come into
Yes.
my life. So I gotta avoid everything that,
That has to do with God.
and that's a part of it.
And I get it. And I get it because Chico, if I'm gonna keep it real, there was a moment where I was upset and I was angry. I was like, Lord, like I legit thought you was gonna bring my cousin back. I legit thought you were going to heal him. I allowed myself to believe that because my faith draws me in that direction. So when he didn't do it, I was upset for a brief moment, but then my mind shifted, and hopefully somebody in our audience's mind will shift as well. And I felt the Lord telling me if there was something that my cousin chased throughout his life was peace, was bliss, was joy, was true happiness, genuine happiness. And he had moments of it. Thankfully, he has children that adore him. His kids adored him. His grandchildren adored him. His baby's mothers did a great, great job in never being blocking access to their kids and their father. So when all of this stuff is going down and I'm angry for that brief second, God said, what if I gave him what he needed, although it wasn't what all of you wanted?
That is a hard truth to swallow.
It's hard because we're like,
because essentially
I want him here.
Yeah, you're thinking about your feelings. You don't know, like what was supposed to be for them.
And like for me, I'm like, I want him here. I wanna call him.
Mm-hmm.
I want to tell him I love him. I want to tell him I'm sorry. I want to tell him, I'm sorry religion became blocked me from you. I want to tell him I'm sorry I didn't show you the love that Jesus showed me. I want to tell him all these things, but I can't. So that caused me to become angry. But you know what? Anger is okay. It's okay to be angry when you lose someone. And I needed to understand that, right? And so I went through it. I'm going through all this bawling and I begin to share with my family and share with different people. I found this thing in a quote, and it says, sharing trauma with the internet world while we're in the middle of it short circuits the process. Say this again. Sharing trauma in our in our subject tonight, grief, with the internet world, Instagram, Facebook, calling people. I saw people calling people on Facebook Live just to show themselves crying in front of my cousin. Pissed me off. You want to talk about piss me off? Pissed me off.
And you know how we can say everybody has their own way of grieving?
Yes.
I just that one is a hard one.
It's
for me to
hard
really
for
look at
me.
And say that doesn't look like
yes,
grieving, right?
yes.
Like,
so I had to I had to tell his children, like, please tell these people to stop bugging because I'm gonna blow up and they don't want me to blow up.
Putting people's loved ones on display for.
And he had just passed away, Chico. He literally, his body wasn't even cold yet. So I was angry. And but this again, sharing trauma with the internet world while we're in the middle of it short circuits the process. It crosses the wires and creates sparks, loud sparks, noise, adoration, comments like "we love you," "we're cheering for you," "everything's gonna be okay," "oh, I'm sorry." No. The sparks usually mean a bad connection. And I saw this, Chico, around me where I was like, yo, they're seeking comfort in the wrong place. They're seeking comfort in the wrong place.
Yeah, I can understand that. Like, you're seeking comfort from a bunch of people online, whether you know them or you don't. Like,
yes,
it's not confronting your actual feelings.
Yes, and that's kind of what happened to me, right? And Brene Brown, she says we need to honor our struggle by sharing it with someone who has earned the right to hear it. We need to honor our struggle by sharing it with someone who's earned the right to hear it. My wife earned the right to share in my struggle because she was there. She's been there. She's my wife. No one knows me more than her. No one is there consistently with me like her. No one else has earned that right. Instagram didn't earn that right. Facebook didn't earn that right. Twitter didn't earn that right. TikTok didn't earn that right. But how many times we're sharing our grief with people that don't know us, thinking that a like on social media is gonna fill our heart, right? Because if you look at social media, those spaces are empty. Those spaces are empty. So we think and we convince ourselves that if that space on social media gets full, then my heart will get full again. No, 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 no. You're playing yourself. You're playing yourself. That's not how it works. Only real people can fill the spaces of your life that real people left vacant.
That's it right there. Like, that is so on point, because we like you said, we fall into that space that we forget that that's not real life. In real life, we got people over here concerned about us, people that you said that earn that right for you to grieve. And then, like you said, some of those people are the ones that we avoid to share our grief with, and they end up paying the consequences to that. You know what I mean? Like, we start taking off in bad habits with them. And when we don't allow ourselves to grieve healthily, is that how you say it?
We'll make it a word.
Make it a word, right? Like, when you don't allow yourself to do it in a healthy way with the people that are around you, that you live with, your parents, your wife, fiance, your girlfriend, then you're gonna create another source of trauma.
Yes.
To what you just experienced.
Yes. And it's wild. We don't realize it.
It's a trickle effect.
But hopefully what this conversation that we're having is gonna help people to grieve. Absolutely. Because again, there's the Christian that his method of grieving is saying, no, the Lord's will had to be done. This is what God wanted. God giveth, God taketh away. From dirt man is made, to the dirt he must return. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no. I could go down verses, bro.
I say things like everything happens for a reason. And
the non-Christian, right? We have our sayings as well, but what they are they're just sayings that you're using to avoid the pain that you're feeling. But the pain that you're feeling is part of the process. It's part of it. It's part of it. Solomon said there's a time
for everything
to live, a time to be born, and a time to die. If you read through the rest of it, he says there's a time to laugh and a time to cry. Mm-hmm. When you lose someone and you love that person and that person loved you, that's the time to cry. And that's okay. Like I feel like I grieved my cousin fully. I feel like I know what I could have done better and what I should have done better. Again, I know that there's still parts of me that are hurting, that are broken, that are incomplete now. It's hard.
It draws me to think, like, in this era we're living in today, we have ways to kind of like revisit memories too. Like, we can go on our text messages, and if there's somebody that we would text, you could look back and read those conversations, and it's like another form of, you either erase it or go through it and just live through those memories a little bit and remember that person. But,
yes.
We'll see people that hold on to it in an unhealthy way, where that grief never really gets closure.
Yes.
Right. And I'm with you on that. I feel like there was things that I hadn't grieved in past life that I've experienced, like to a year after, crying. And it was because I was able to admit, now that, I'm able to think back to certain things, is when I was able to admit that I never grieved a certain situation. The minute I brung it up and confronted it and said, I'm still dealing with this, I cried. Yes. I cried like it had happened right there and then. And then after that, I felt this different energy, and I felt like those emotions were just caught there. It was a blockage. And perfect. I agree with that. I think that we're gonna experience grief throughout our entire life. There's gonna be people close to us, people that aren't so close to us, but we're gonna lose people.
Yes.
And it's something that we need to learn to pay attention to what stage we are in grief.
Yes.
And go through the full thing and not just take
Yes.
an exit and avoid it.
And it's not imitating someone else's process.
That is another one.
Everyone has
that
their
is-
own
You know how some
process.
people
You know what I
compare
mean?
themselves. How much did you cry when you were at?
Bro,
I get
that's so
frustrated
good.
sometimes when people be like, "How much did that person cry?" Does it matter?
Yeah.
They might have cried on the way here, and they
Yes.
don't have it in them to keep going. What do I know what that person is going
Yes.
through? You know, you can't be judging what people see when everybody's dealing with it behind closed doors too.
It's insane, man. But it's
We
good.
see that in funerals and
all the
and
time.
everything.
And if you're Latino, like we're Latino, you see that a lot. Like you're looking, oh my
yeah.
God, Tito, how they look how they cry. No, because
That person
sometimes
said, "Se
you're
cayó en el
crying for a
piso,
different reason.
That's the thing. Like, you see people drop on the floor, start crying, and then you kind of get annoyed because you kind of can remember certain people's relationship and say, I don't know. That doesn't seem like that's the thing that has you doing this right now.
Yes.
And I don't know. You can see it. I feel like you can see it.
You can. And you know, it's human nature to judge. So, you know, we'll begin to judge. And this again leads us to our grieving process. Judging all these people that were doing all this nonsense during my cousin's wake wasn't going to help me heal. It wasn't going to help me feel better and get better. So I would share it with Anna and I would keep it moving. Like I would share what I was feeling and the anger I was feeling and keep it moving. Like, no, it's not about them. It's about my cousin. It's about I lost my cousin. I lost somebody close to me. I lost somebody that I loved. I lost somebody that loved me. I lost somebody that believed in me. I lost someone that we have these experiences, these traumas, these things that we dealt with. And then, you know, within my healing process, I began to kind of assimilate some of, you know, what was left. And I was like, you know what? He passed away, but the memories didn't leave with him. They didn't leave with him. Like he's still in here.
Absolutely.
You know, and today I was walking through downtown and like I purposely allowed myself to kind of feel what I was feeling. And I was like, I walked through here with June. I stopped in front of a store and I was like, man, this is where he pointed at his first kid's mom's. And he said, I'm going to get with her. I went up the street and there was a pizzeria and I was like, man, like this was our spot. I went around the block and I was like, man, this is like the first day we were walking like 11, 12 and it was just us and our parents weren't around. I walked back towards my job and I was like, this is how we walk, like going back to grandma's house, going back to the block. I was feeling this. You know what I mean? I was still feeling this. I'm not punishing myself.
You're allowing yourself.
I'm allowing myself to feel.
And you're reliving moments of your life that meant something to you.
That and important moments. And although I was sad, I was happy at the same time. It was a happy sadness. So let's make that a term. It was happy sadness.
Hey man, I listen to sad music when I'm happy, so I can call that happy sadness.
Yeah, it's part of your fourishness too. Because Sana does the same thing.
And you know, and with grief, with me, it's so weird because I could just be in a crowd of people and just getting my feelings about a certain memory, a certain person that's no longer here, or even thinking about when that time comes for me or somebody around me.
That's so
and
interesting.
And now just dive into that feeling, and I'll just keep digging more and listen to another song. Like it's, I let it just soak in.
Is it healthy for you?
I honestly that's left to be continued, to be honest, because
so good.
I'm still learning on why do I do that. I'm still trying to understand if it's in an unhealthy manner or if it's something that helps me feel more alive in some weird way. But I constantly find myself in those thoughts sometimes, just thinking, and I get scared, I get emotional, and then I'm back to normal. But I don't know. I feel like it's something that, like, I have to remind myself that this is not permanent. And
that's really good. I think that that's a gift that maybe God has given you that you should dig a little bit into and lean into. Because if there's anything with Enneagram fours is that they're able to feel deeply more than other types. And again, in a moment of grieving, in a moment of grief, if there's like I want a four around me. Like I want someone that's gonna tell me, nah, feelings are good. Feelings are
Yeah.
part of our experience. Feel. I want you to feel. And that's one of the things that I want our audience to know, Chico. Like it's okay to feel. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to feel all of these things that you feel when you lose a loved one. And I can't emphasize that enough. You lost a loved one. This isn't normal. This isn't something that's supposed to be casually just cast aside. No. This crap hurts, man. You know what I mean? Like it hurts.
It does, and honestly, I feel like there's in some way we're numb to some of these things because of people sharing their grief online. You all you really do is learn how to grieve by selling rest in peace, on comments.
Yes.
But when you're sitting next to someone that's grieving, you're gonna do like what Jesus did and weep.
So good.
Even though you know that they're gonna be okay.
Yes.
Like you can be in your head and be like, yo, this is part of life. But if when you're on in the internet, it's easy to do that because, like you said, we're not in front of real people.
Yes.
But when you're in front of real people that are going through it, best believe you're gonna feel their grief. If you have any feelings towards that person, if you have any closeness to that person,
Yes.
you're gonna. I feel like even people that don't know you would grieve with you. There was a situation that recently happened, right? For someone I know was on a plane. And coming back from Dominican Republic, this older lady with her mother on the flight. I guess her mother was a little ill. She stopped breathing.
Oof.
Ends up dying on the plane.
No.
And her daughter is crying, screaming for her mother
because you're in the air.
They tried. They had medics in there. They tried to revive the person. They didn't come back. And you got people that are just sitting on a flight crying because they have mothers too. So grief isn't just because I didn't know that person, but I have somebody that has that title of father, of mother, of grandmother, and I know what that can feel like, or I'm gonna know what that feels like if they go first than me. So you're gonna feel that grief, but because of the internet, we're not able to connect with people in that manner.
Yes.
And grief is another thing that, again, we think we've dealt with and we haven't.
And it's so real, man. One of the things that I'm trying to create the habit, because again, habits are hard to create, is to now reach out to my cousins. You know what I mean? The ones that are left, and just hit them up. Oh, I'm thinking about you, man. I love you. And like telling them that I love them, because I do. Like I love my cousins. I love my family. They're cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs sometimes. Like they wild.
From the people that I was able to meet, amazing people too, man. It was fun the first time meeting, and that's not even probably half of them, right?
Not even close. So it's wild, but it's like we gotta share what we feel when we feel it. Absolutely. Because when they're gone, you can no longer tell them. You can no longer tell them. And I think that's part of our grieving process as well, is admitting to ourselves that all these things, things left unsaid. And moments left unsaid.
You know how we say, they're still around us and you can just say it, but it's different when like they were physically there and heard you and put that in their brain. They were able to hear your voice, say it to them. So I can see where it's hard to accept it. It's hard to accept that you weren't able to do that and find healing in that.
It's tough, man. Like for me, one of the things that I'm able to find comfort in today and part of my solace is in knowing that he didn't go through his last days alone. He was surrounded by people. His kids were there. And when he decided to leave, when he just couldn't anymore and he left this world, I was there. You know, and like I'm glad God allowed me to be there. Um because he was June. Like my oldest cousin, one of my older cousins hit me up. He was like, he wasn't, they called him Basso, out there, and all these other names, but to us he was just June. And unless you was part of that little clique, which was me, June, my cousin Ed, and my little brother Wilson, like, you just don't know. You just don't know what we're feeling. And for you, that are trying to comfort someone else, you don't know what they're feeling. Stop. Don't tell them they're gonna be okay, even though we know that it's possible. We don't want to hear that in our moment of grief. Just say, I'm here. That's what we want to hear. Those are the magic words we want to hear.
And that's good that you say that, because I'm the type of person that doesn't know what to say in moments like that. Like, I'm a person that has feelings, and I dive into my feelings. But when it comes to other people, I don't even know what to, like.
The best thing to say in those moments is just, I'm here.
I'm here.
I get it. Like, I get it. But don't say you're gonna feel fine. Don't try to, like, create an atmosphere that maybe the person isn't ready for. Just be there.
Not ready for.
Just be there. You know what I mean? And sometimes this is the best word you can give. Maybe not for you, because you have these touchy issues. But sometimes it's a hug. Sometimes it's just, yo, I'm here, man. Like, sometimes it's just keeping it real. Like, I don't know what to say, but I'm here. That's better than saying something dumb. And I think, that's really important. And, like, I know we shared things tonight that are really, really helpful, and hopefully, I don't want to say I hope we didn't open any old wounds, because I actually hope that we did. Because if it's still opening, due to a YouTube video, due to a podcast, it's because it never healed correctly. And maybe now is the day that you can begin to finally heal correctly. Amen. Mitch Albom, one of my favorite authors, in a book called One More Day, he says, when someone is in your heart, they're never truly gone. They can come back to you even at unlikely times. They're never really gone. So, June, I know you're with me. My grandfather, my grandma, like, I know all of you guys are with me. You're in my heart. You'll never, ever, ever be forgotten. I love you guys. BYOB audience, man. I've been extremely vulnerable tonight. Absolutely. But I think this is just something that we need. This is something we need to get better at doing. And I hope that it's helpful for you guys. If my family heard this tonight, I love you guys. We're in this together. Let's reach out to each other. I love you. If you've lost people, and think about the people that are remaining, connect with them. Someone might need you in the worst way today, tonight, whatever time you're listening to this video. Someone might need to hear from you. Text them, call them. Better yet, visit them. Let them know that they're not alone. Amen. That's all I got.
Amazing. I can close out with that as well. I'm on the same boat, man. Like, everything that you said, I can't even add to that, man. Thank you for opening up and being transparent, being able to share those things and bring clarity. Yeah. Because even for me, I think that there was a lot of clarity in areas where I could do better, and areas and people that I need to start calling again, things that I said I would do once I lost my aunt and my grandmother that I have to continue to do, because like we get back to the emotions of life. Like, when we find some type of comfort and we kind of I guess not as heavy on the grieving, we do kind of fall back into routine and try to get back to a normal life, which is healthy. Yes. But we have to do better and not wait for another tragedy to happen to remember all the things that we could be doing with our time. Yeah. And BYOB audience, man, thank you for your time. Pray for us. Pray for my family that's still kind of dealing with all of these emotions. Pray for your loved ones. I'm praying for you guys. And till next week, let's go.